Hi, coming at you with no makeup on a webcam and with crappy audio to talk about something that I have no business even talking about. If you guys have never heard of the Martinez Twins, I don't know what you're doing in this video, but let me give you the 411. Basically, they got famous off of, well, first Instagram, then YouTube, then they blew up on Jake Paul's channel because they were part of Team 10, and then everything kind of went downhill from there. Now, a couple disclaimers. I am a little bit of a fan of them, but I am not their target demographic at all. Their audience is like 15 years old at most, and here I am at 25 freaking years old talking about them. So I don't have much of a leg to stand on. I don't work with entertainment at all. I'm a doctor, which has absolutely nothing to do with entertainment. I'm just here airing out my thoughts on this whole thing because I think I am one of the very few fans of them who are older, and I think I have a perspective that not a lot of the people seem to have. So let's start at the beginning. Emilio and Ivan Martinez are twins from Barcelona, who as kids wanted to be soccer players, but then they both got injured kind of at the same time because apparently weird things like that happen to twins, and they couldn't play anymore. Now, keep in mind, everything that I'm saying here is based on TV shows that they were on, their own videos, interviews, all that stuff, so I'm not speculating. When I start to speculate, I'm going to tell you guys, but all of this came from sources that are the closest to reliable that we're ever going to get. They had a lot of money until their asshole dad left when they were 15 years old, taking most of the family's assets with them. Their mother was left alone to support herself. 3 children, all of whom were teenagers, and technically they could work, but I think they were all in school still, and the boy's grandparents. So it got to a point where things were so bad that allegedly they were sleeping on the floor with like blankets and no mattress in a house that had no electricity and no water. And of course, that also took a giant toll on them emotionally. Then in the middle of that, they started getting a little famous on the internet and becoming Instagram models. And on one hand, this is where I start to put my own interpretation on it. On one hand, that gave them a lot of the emotional satisfaction that they needed because, look, I've been walked out on by a parent, but I wasn't that affected by it because I was 3 years old, so I spent my entire life being used to basically not having that parent around. But even that took a toll on me. So I can only imagine that when you spend the first 15 years of your life being used to having someone around and all of a sudden they just, adios, that messes you up, obviously. So I think they were obviously emotionally unsatisfied, and having the recognition that came from a bunch of strangers telling them that they were pretty and becoming their fans and recognizing them on the street gave them a lot of that satisfaction back. It's not like it's a substitute, but it is a pretty good thing that happened to them. I don't think they were making money off of Instagram. I think back then their mother was the one who was working her absolute ass off. By the way, from what I know, their mother is a really great person. But you know, that's where they started to get famous. And then they started to get recognized on the street, which, according to the boys themselves in an interview they did for a Spanish TV channel, was kind of bothersome already because it took away a lot of their privacy, like it happens to any famous person. And they couldn't go to parties or anywhere without being recognized. So then their friend Ruben convinced them that, hey, they should start making YouTube videos. And I know that by then their financial situation was probably still tight, but it was a lot better because they started filming in an apartment with like furniture and stuff. So one can only think that things were at least a little better. So they started doing prank videos and all that jazz, and they started getting even more popular and famous, and it seemed like they were really into it. They talked a lot about themselves and their family and their lives, and it was a fun time. I mean, I've watched their old videos, and they were absolutely adorable in it. Oh, and just a little disclaimer for the future. I am going to be referring to them pretty much all the time as boys and kids, but I know fully well that they're grown-ass adults now. Even though they're young adults, there are a lot of things they've done that they should have known a lot better. And then Jake Paul and Team 10 came to Barcelona for something, I don't know what. And they had seen the boys and thought, hey, having Spanish kids on our team is going to bring our audience, is going to broaden our audience, so why not? So they reached out to the boys and said, hey, do you want to be on Team 10? And the boys were like, sure. Now, Jake has said on a video, I don't know if it was an interview with someone or his own video, that he took pity on the boys because they were sleeping on the floor and whatever, and I don't think that's true. It's no secret to anyone that I really dislike Jake Paul, and I don't think he's that benevolent. And I think he is a lot smarter than that business-wise, because if he didn't see potential in the Twins, if he didn't think that would make his audience that much bigger, he wouldn't have done that. Which is not a bad thing. You have to be smart about business to keep your business growing, and that's another thing we'll be touching on later. Can you not? And by that time, the boys weren't sleeping on the floor anymore. They had a fully furnished apartment, and they flew to LA knowing practically no English and just with a lot of hope and very little clue what was going on. And naturally, if I were their mother, I would be having a heart attack at this moment, because can you imagine? I can't imagine moving all the way across the world to a country whose language I don't speak without anyone I know. Like, God, that's crazy. And okay, I identify a lot with these kids, okay, because our birthdays are just 3 days apart, and so they're Tauruses just like me, and I see a lot of common traits in us. So if their minds are anything like mine, I would say it was pretty gigantic shock for them. But okay, they joined Team 10, their views blew up. All of a sudden, there were like a bajillion more fans writing them letters and sending them fan art, and they were living for it. Obviously, they loved it. And as much as they say they got bullied, I absolutely do not doubt that. Again, I don't think Jake Paul is a good person at all from everything I've seen of him. Side note, I do have a lot of appreciation for Erica, who is his girlfriend, and I have no idea what the hell she sees in him, but that's another story for another day. Now, they learned from everyone on Team 10, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all, to have not a themed channel, but a personality-based one. And what that means is, for example, you have Mikey from Glam and Gore who does special effects makeup, or you have James Charles who does regular makeup, or you have Nerdy Crafter who does crafts and product reviews. And all those people are people I really admire, by the way. But my point is, those channels have a theme. So those people whose channels have a theme are allowed to focus more on the theme than on themselves, thus keeping a lot more of their lives private. Now, people like, for example, the Dolan Twins or Jenna Marbles, the lines are very blurry between your private life and your personal life. How much you can reveal, how much the public wants you to reveal, and how much you're supposed to share, because to some degree you do establish a kind of a character. You are never 100% yourself. But if you have a personality-based channel, people are a lot more insistent on getting to know everything about you, and especially when you have a very young audience, because basically what you're known for is being really cute. Your audience is going to be very young, and that means on one hand you have undying, unconditional support that borders on cult-like sometimes, but on the other hand you're also expected to be a lot more present and to share a lot more of yourself than you would otherwise, and that got to them. When they were in Team 10, one of the things they complained about the most after leaving was the lack of privacy, in which they couldn't lock the bedroom door. And again, I don't know how true or how false those claims are, but based on what I know about Jake and about the twins, I kind of believe them. I don't know if it was as bad as they're saying it was, but I kind of do believe them. One way or another, one thing they always complained about was the lack of privacy. By the way, I'm going to touch on the money thing very briefly because I have no clue how that even works. And even all that stuff I was saying about having a personality-based channel versus other kinds of channels, I'm saying this out of my brain. I don't have a lot of sources to back it up, so I could be wrong. But the money thing was, well, once they left Team 10, they said that Jake kept all of their money and he wouldn't let them have bank accounts, which gets a little foggy. And what I think happened was, well, when you join a team, especially something as official as Team 10, you have to sign a contract. I believe they did. And again, they jumped into this with no knowledge at all, and the contract was probably in English. They were 17-year-old kids. I don't know how that works legally because they were minors, but I don't know how any of this works, so what do I know? The contract must have said something about not Jake himself as a person, but the company, Team 10, taking a certain percentage of the profit that they made from merch sales and from AdSense and whatever else. And again, I have no source to back this up. For all I know, this could all be absolute bullshit. Jake told them, whether in the contract or personally, that he would be taking this much. Okay, I'm not going to talk numbers because I have absolutely no idea what the numbers are. But he said he would be taking this much. And he ended up taking this much. But the twins, through wrong calculations maybe, or misunderstandings, or just plain lying, I don't know them, I can't completely vouch for them being good, honest people, think that he took this much. That's what I think happened, but I could be wrong. Let me just put up my hair here because I'm getting excited about this theory. Then they started a career on their own, and that's when things began to unravel because they couldn't keep up a schedule. They still can't. And they kept making big, bold promises and not keeping them. And they started to run out of ideas for content, which resulted in them doing a lot of clickbait and lying about serious issues, like, for example, getting deported. They made a whole video of getting fake deported, which, guys, come on, you're better than this. That's one of the biggest issues. They lied to their fans. They did a giveaway and just never address the fact that the winner never got her prize. I'm trying to look good with this ponytail, but it's a difficult task. They did something, I don't remember what, for a charity and just never addressed that either. And just kept taking like month-long breaks with no warning, no explanation, or very flimsy explanations, if any. And they just keep returning to the same patterns and tweeting about how, oh, they're starting a new life, they're reinventing themselves, they're finally happy, but they're not. They did a bajillion videos with like clown pranks, and they kept trying all kinds of things. They faked a fight in which they were separated, which was just their attempts to try and start new channels, like their separate channels, which didn't work. They hyped up a boxing match, it didn't work, nothing worked. Now, around the time they moved to a new house, which was a really big one, and it looked like everything was looking up because now they were living with their sister and their friend Edu. And if you guys don't believe in astrology, that's fine. Just look at it as common traits between me and what I see of them. Is that familiarity and roots are vital to people like us. Like, if you're in a completely unfamiliar place with completely unfamiliar people and an unpredictable life, you start to go a little crazy. Change is a big problem to people like us. So the fact that they were now living with their sister and their friend, people who they knew from Spain from way back there, and I think Katya was living with them too, it looked like everything was going to be okay. But it wasn't, because they kept on making crappy videos every now and then, and I started going on Twitter because of them. Like, I've had Twitter since 2009, but I hadn't gone in like 2 years. And I went back to Twitter because of them, because I was now into them, and well, being in Real People fandom means you can be entertained by them on several platforms, including Twitter. And I ended up getting close to a few people, obviously not too close because they are children and I am not, okay, but I ended up talking to a lot of their fans, and some of whom are really cool teens who are going to do great things in the future, some of whom are completely insane. I'm not going to blame anyone specifically here, okay? And some of those completely insane ones had the brilliant idea of, once the twins' address got leaked, going up to their house and like standing outside of the house or putting stuff in their mailbox, which by the way is a crime. I'm sure they only had the best possible intentions, but that's why you have parents, kids, okay? When you're about to do something really stupid, out of the goodness and the love in your heart, your parents' job is to say, that is really stupid, don't do it. But tangent over. So what I imagine happened is that they started to see this breach of privacy again, and they immediately got like a whole lot of Team 10 flashbacks and thought, shit, all that we're doing to protect what little of our privacy we can keep in this job, we're not succeeding. And that really must have messed with their heads, especially Ivan. You can tell that Emilio is a lot more into the whole fame thing and the whole YouTube thing and social media thing than Ivan is. And from then, I'm not saying it was because of that, but that must have been one of the factors, and things kind of unraveled. And then comes the biggest offender of them all. They launched an app, and at first, people found the app before they announced it, so we were certain that it was a troll. The description was very badly written, and they're charging for messages and exclusive content. The app is free, but if you want to see photos without getting ads before them, and if you want to send a message, it's, I think, 99 cents for each message, or you can pay $1.99 a month and get a free message each month. I talked to some of the kids who got the app, and guess who's not responding to the messages? That's right, them. In the meantime, the twins just grew more and more exhausted with this kind of lifestyle that allows for absolutely no self-expression without criticism. For example, they dyed their hair. It was a blonde, almost white color, and it actually, when it was summer in LA and they were sunburned, it actually suited them pretty well. They were really cute, but everybody complained about it because when you're a public person and you get any kind of change, people are going to make comments. And if you don't get any kind of change, people are also going to make comments. That's just how it works, okay? I keep forgetting to look at the camera, so there's large portions of this video of me just staring at myself. And I remember Ivan freaking out and going, yeah, I changed my hair back. Do you think my haters are going to be happy now? Like, kid, the vast majority of the people who were commenting weren't haters. They were your fans. They were people who love you and admire you and want to be closer to you. This comes with the job. And now it has come to a point where the app is a scam. They've made a lot of promises they can't keep. And Emilio is maybe trying a little bit, and Ivan is just plain old phoning it in. He's tweeting like 9-gag jokes from 2012, trying to pass them off as actual conversations between him and his brother. And it's all very cringy. What I think is they are lost. I think that in the beginning, YouTube as a source of money was vital to them because they needed to help their family, and of course they must have felt very guilty that their mother was working nonstop to support them and they weren't doing anything, which I 100% understand that kind of guilt, okay? I know it pretty well. So they used YouTube as a way to get money, which has absolutely no problem with it. But now it's not necessary anymore, but they love the fancy lifestyle that they have. And there's no way to keep it if they don't keep doing YouTube because they are not trained for anything else because they jumped straight out of high school to YouTube. And they have said it themselves, they weren't good students to begin with. And then There's the fact that they are burnt out. They are 19 years old. They've been famous for like 2 years and they're burnt out completely. Like, a lot of YouTubers have been very upfront about burnout, but they are all old YouTubers. Like, for example, Emma Blackery. Dodie Clark has one of the most beautiful songs I've ever seen about burnout. Even the Dolan twins themselves, they've been famous for a lot longer than the Martinez. Gabby Hanna has a song about it too, but those are all people who have been in the game for a long, long time, and they have kept trying. They keep trying. The twins aren't trying anymore, and I think they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because they don't want to do this anymore, but it's the only thing they know how to do. Now, here's my analysis. When you want to have a job, even if it's your dream, you need a certain skill set that comes with any kind of job. For example, as a child, and like up until I was 17, 18, it was my very biggest dream to publish a book. In order to do that, you need a lot of dedication. You need a lot of creativity, time, patience, and an endless set of skills that will make you a good writer. And I write for fun, and when it stops being fun, I stop writing. So I have never been able to fully commit to a project enough to get it published. I actually tried once, and I'm glad it didn't happen because it was kind of a Twilight ripoff written by a 15-year-old. So yeah, I'm glad it didn't happen. So I write as a hobby without expecting anything from it. Another example, you want to be a doctor. So you need to have people skills. You need to have a strong stomach because you're going to see a lot of disgusting stuff. You need to be okay with working long hours. You need to be okay with working hard. Let's say you want to pursue being a doctor and you have very good people skills. You have a very strong stomach, but you will not ever work weekends. You hate working weekends and you don't want to work weekends. You can't be a doctor. I'm sorry. That is just not going to happen. And if you keep pursuing it, even if you do succeed, you are going to be unhappy all of the time. Now, extrapolate that to a public career. You have to be charismatic, which the boys undoubtedly are. You have to be, well, to a certain extent, you have to look good, which they obviously do. And you have to be okay with not having privacy. You have to be fine with having your privacy invaded, at least to a certain extent, because although it is a shitty part of the job, it is a part of your job. You have to be okay with having the lines blur between your personal and professional life, and in a lot of cases, turning personal moments, like for example their sister's graduation or the renovation of their home or any of the fun stuff that they did, into content. You have to be okay with doing that, especially if you're a personality-based channel. And if you're not okay with that, you are not fit to be a YouTuber. You're not fit to be famous, period. And that's fine. You don't have to be. You don't have to spend your life doing something you don't like. Just don't keep scamming your fans and fooling a lot of children into spending their parents' hard-earned money on messages that you have no plan of replying to. I get it, okay? I'm talking directly to the twins now. I know they are never going to see this video, but if by some chance they do, I want to get this message across. I know that you thought YouTube was your endgame. I know you thought that it was your solution, and for a while it was. But we can clearly see that you're unhappy doing this. And we, as fans, I don't exactly call myself a fan, but we, as people who like you and support you, we want you to be happy. We want to see you living your best lives. And it's okay if we're not there to see it. If you are not happy being YouTubers anymore, which you clearly aren't because you're not putting out any content, you're taking like 3-month-long breaks in the middle of 2 videos, don't do it anymore. Go after something that makes you happy. You have the financial condition right now to go after anything to get better skills to do something you actually want. Because I know that there are so many people in jobs that they don't like because it's the only option for them. You gotta do what you gotta do to survive. The twins are long past that. They don't need their job for survival anymore. So what are they doing? Go look for something that actually makes you happy. Go look for something you're passionate about. And if you don't know what that is yet, That is okay. It's okay that YouTube isn't for you. You tried, you gave it your best shot, and now you know it's not for you. That's okay. That doesn't make you bad people. What makes you bad people is lying endlessly to your fans. Stop doing that. They are children or young teenagers who believe in you, who love you, who spend hours of their time writing fan fiction and making fan art and beautiful video edits just to show their appreciation and their love for you. And you're going to give them what kind of retribution? Silence? At first, when I got into this fandom, I started noticing how the people who have been noticed even once by either of the twins were kind of on a top tier of the fandom, which I think is absolute bullshit. And I started noticing how rare it is for people to get noticed, except for a couple of people who the twins talk to kind of regularly. And I thought, maybe that's just how real people fandom is, because again, I hadn't been on Twitter in 2 years, and before that, I was only standing like the cast of Teen Wolf. I'm not a very well-adjusted 25-year-old. So I thought, okay, that's just how things go. But then I started occasionally tweeting to my favorite YouTubers just to tell them that their newest video was really cool or something like that. And every one of them noticed me on my first try, and I have like 100 followers on Twitter, and half of them don't use Twitter anymore because I've had the account since I was 16. I tweeted at Mikey from Glam and Gore, and she replied. I tweeted at Michaela Long. I tweeted at Erica Costell, who was on Team 10 with the boys, who has a personality-based channel too, and Thomas Sanders, Danny Gonzalez, Melinda Kathleen Reese. All of them replied to me, or at least liked my tweets. And the twins just don't give a crap. They just put themselves up on this pedestal, and they're using fame and the fact that they have a lot of followers as an excuse to not interact with anyone, which I think if you really enjoy being famous, you're going to want to interact with your fans as much as you possibly can. And they don't, but they don't enjoy it, so go do something else. Side note, I have a drawing account on Instagram, and it's Weekly Doodles if you guys want to follow it. And I made a drawing of Michaela Long. And she replied saying it was the cutest thing she's ever seen, and I am so happy about that. But anyway, bottom line is, everybody has the right to pursue their happiness and their personal fulfillment. And if you find yourself in the wrong path, at least try to steer yourself in the right direction, and the direction that feels right to you. But you don't have the right to be irresponsible and to lie to people and to make promises and not keep them. You want a very easy way to not have to deal with this issue? Don't make promises. These are kids who are counting on you, who look up to you, and I think the best example that you can give them is putting your foot down, saying, this doesn't work for me, I'm gonna go look for something that does. And please stop playing with their feelings, because that is the only part of this entire thing that makes you an absolute douchebag. So if you enjoyed my ranting for 42 minutes, holy shit. I've been rambling about this for 42 minutes. Well, if you enjoyed my rambling, I guess subscribe to the channel. I don't know if I'm going to be making any more videos, but I do have something planned. Two things actually. I'm working on my Inktober drawings, and I'm making some videos to, show them week by week, because I think that's a fun thing to do. And I'm also working on a 30-day sugar detox, which I'm also documenting because I just like documenting stuff. So if you want to see that, I guess subscribe, and if you don't, don't. Bye.